The Conduit is Draw Steel's priest or healer, their kind of holy character, in addition to the censor. And they do that by being a vessel for the power of their god or their saint. And the way that's represented through their mechanics is the prayer system. So they have a heroic resource called Piety, and they roll a d3 at the start of their turn, and that's how much piety they'll get, unless they choose to pray. If they choose to pray, depending on what they got on that dice, they'll either get sort of struck by their god and take some damage, they might just get more piety, or they might get more piety and a domain effect. And this is when I have to start hopping around for the Conduit, because they're a very unique class. And their subclasses are inextricably linked with their resource. So instead of subclasses, or as subclasses, the Conduit has a big list of domains from which they pick two, and that gives them the combination as their subclass. So say Storm and Fate. They pick those two domains. Both those domains give them an extra way to gain their resource, and also a domain effect. So for example, if you roll a 3 on your dice and you were praying, you could pick the Storm domain effect, which lets you send a bolt of lightning at a target, or you could pick your Fate effect, which lets you give someone an automatic tier 3, for example. And that's all kind of bound up in the class's features as well. So because you have these two domains, you'll get a choice of your domains at varying times through play. So whereas if you were a different class, your subclass might give you two options at a given level. Instead, you get one option from each of your domains, and you pick which one. Do I feel more like leaning into Storm or more like leaning into Fate? And then you can kind of backfill as well if you want to kind of keep it balanced. The other big feature of the Conduit is their Healing Grace, which they have as a maneuver. And this is how they can do pretty routine healing. So as a maneuver, they can point to a target within range and let them spend a recovery. They can then spend Piety to do a bunch of other effects. So they can spend one Piety to target a second target, and they'll both get a recovery. They could spend it to remove an effect. They can spend it to allow a prone target to stand up. They could spend it to allow the same target to spend another recovery. And it means that when they build up the resource, which they're probably going to build up a bit more than your average character, because they're probably going to pray quite a lot. They've got their different ways of gaining it, but they're going to be spending it more as well. So yes, they want to save up for their cool abilities, but they also want to be using it with their Healing Grace to make sure everyone stays up, stays healthy, stays happy. So the Conduit is very much a support class, but they do have a decent amount of damage, as you would expect, and as a healer can be surprisingly tanky. But all in all, the coolest thing about them to me is that narrative that comes with it. Kind of like what I said with the talent, is it's got built-in story. Because you're picking your god or your saint, or your hero, depending on your ancestry or the culture you were raised in. And there's a whole chunk of the book that explains the various gods of Vasloria, or the various ancestries, and what saints they act through. And I just think that helps you make a really fleshed out character. Like a lot of stuff in this game, like your culture, like your career, but baked into your class is this idea you have a relationship with a saint or a hero or a god. And that's just really, really cool.